Good evening. How are you doing? My name is Sarah Otieno. We are live on Family Radio, where the music does the talking, and also live on Family TV, where we're keeping Jesus on the airwaves. Use the WhatsApp number 0786316316 and contact us also through the SMS line 20316 on Facebook and Twitter at Family Radio 316. And we will be here to get back to you at any time of the day and also in whatever requests you have. Well, today we look at some of the stories that are making headline, and later on in the show we will be talking about mental health and medicalization. This is basically administering a medication for mental health, the effects it can have, the challenges that come with over medication or under medication, but that is coming up later. For now, let's look at the stories. Now, the Deputy President William Ruto has dismissed those poking holes at his work as busybodies. He said at no point had he failed to serve the country as the principal assistant of the president. He was speaking today where he held a meeting with the delegation of women in business from Nairobi County. Dr. Ruto said every work and responsibility given to him by the president had been discharged with distinction. The chairperson of the National Assembly Finance and Budget Committee, Kanini Kega, yesterday said that he was considering taking punitive budgetary action against the DP over his failure to attend the COVID-19 conference chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Jubilee Vice Chairperson David Murathe said that the DP's failure to attend the conference suggested that he was preparing to leave the ruling party and possibly resign from the government.
Hata jana mimi nasikia watu wengi wanaanza kunipigia makelele ati wanasema ati sijatimiza wajibu wangu kama naibu wa rais wa kikatiba. Mimi nataka niwaeleze, mimi hakuna kazi rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya amenipatia na sijatimiza. Kila kazi, kila wajibu rais wa Kenya ameniassign, akaniambia, William, mimi nataka ufanye hii. He can confirm there is no assignment the President of Kenya has given to me that I have not discharged with distinction. So, hawa watu wengine wanajifanya manyapara, wanajaribu kusema, sijui Deputy President, hajafanya. Wewe umejiappoint kuwa nyapara ya Deputy President, na wewe umechaguliwa kufanya kazi. Wewe ndio ufanye kazi yako ile umechaguliwa kufanya. Kazi yako sio kuwa nyapara yangu. Wewe kwenda kazi, ufanye kazi ile wewe umechaguliwa na wananchi, fanya hiyo kazi. Wacha kazi ya kujiwekelea ya unyapara. Mimi najua ile kazi nimepatiwa kikatiba. Rais ambaye ni mkubwa yangu hajalalamika kwamba kuna kazi alinipatia sikufanya. Sasa wewe unalalamika kama nani? Na hiyo maneno unasema ya kwamba sijatimiza wajibu wangu, ulisikia wapi? Ulisikia wapi hiyo maneno unasema sijatimiza wajibu wangu? Na rais ambaye ni mkubwa yangu hajalalamika, wewe unalalamika as who?
All right, the Jubilee Party is actually taking a new twist, and as the party vice chairperson David Murathe said, that the DP is preparing to leave the ruling party and maybe resign from government. Well, that brings us to the question that we are asking today. Do you think the Tanga Tanga group, led by the Deputy President William Ruto, is now forming an opposition to the government? Do you think the Tanga Tanga group, led by Deputy President William Ruto, is now forming an opposition for the government? Send in your responses to 20316. That is on the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786316316. In other news, Kenya today has recorded 151 more cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, and that brings the total caseload in our country to 38,529. Now, during the daily briefing of the COVID-19 at Afya House today, Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman announced that 2,927 samples have been tested, and that brings the total number of samples to 547,946. Now, all the positive cases were Kenyans, apart from 6 who were foreigners. And out of that number, 97 are male, while 54 are female. And the youngest is a 1-year-old child, while the oldest is 82. Now, 4 patients have also succumbed to the disease in the last 24 hours. And now we have a total of 711 people that have succumbed to COVID-19.
151 people have tested positive after testing 2,927 samples over the last 24 hours, bringing to 38,529 the number of confirmed positive cases in the country. Our cumulative tests now stand at 547,946. From the cases, all are Kenyans except 6 that are foreigners. 97 are male, 54 are female. The youngest is 1 year old, the oldest is 82. On a positive note, 168 people have recovered from the disease, 105 from the home-based care program, and the remaining 63 discharged from various hospitals. Our total recoveries now stand at 24,908. And I want to thank our healthcare workers for this great achievement. Unfortunately, at the same time, we have also lost 4 patients to the disease, bringing our total fatality to 711. Once again, our sincere condolences to the families and friends of those who have lost their loved ones.
Still in matters health, Kenyatta National Hospital workers called off their strike today, which had disrupted operation in the regional's largest public referral hospital over the last 3 days. Union leaders emerged from a meeting with the KNH leadership and management, saying that the decision was in line with the ruling by the Employment and Labour Relations Court, suspending the strike pending the hearing of a case filed by the hospital. Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General Seth Panyako said that union leaders had come to a consensus to change the tact of fighting for the interest of hospital workers and will hence result to the court process.
Sio 7A. Nyinyi mnataka 7A, mnataka salary ya 7A. Ni gani mnataka? Pesa, si ndio? Now that being our price and that being our target at the end. Si nyinyi mnataka tuwaletee hiyo? Yes. Hamtaki kusikia maneno mengi, hamtaki kusikia ati sisi tumeenda huku, si ndio? Nyinyi mnataka nini? Pesa, si ndio? Now with that said, that is what we as a leadership, you've entrusted us and we thank you. Umekuwa na sisi hapa. So hiyo kazi tutafanya, tutaendelea kufanya because the struggle continues. It is just that we are changing tactics. Now I can say this, nyinyi wote mko hapa, Njeru wako hapa, Seta kwa hapa. Tumefanya uamuzi kwamba sisi target yetu ni hiyo pesa yenu yenye iko hapa, si ndio? Ya kulipwa salary ya 7. That being our target. Please, and I beseech upon you that target, and I put that promise here, that we shall make sure you're paid that money.
Solidarity. Bas, vile mnajua, Katibu Njeru amesema mapambano inaendelea, lakini hajafafanua mapambano aina gani.
Well, that is what is happening in the health sector. Talking of matters politics, today we are asking, do you think the Tanga Tanga group that is being led by the Deputy President William Ruto is forming an opposition for the government, Jubilee Party? Send us your responses. And Phyllis Ndungu from Saudi Arabia is saying, I don't like politics, but hata kama Deputy President atajitoa from Jubilee, he is worth it. He has been humiliated and done all bad things, but huwa haongei. It is always cool. He is always cool and humble. I like that. Thank you so much, Phyllis from Saudi Arabia, for tuning in today. I'm waiting for your response on the same topic of the day. Calvin Warungai, you're saying, it seems that the race for 2022 has begun early. Team Tangatanga seems to be forming an opposition in disguise. I like that. Thank you so much. Also, I'm waiting to hear from you about the same topic as we look at some of the stories. Now, a special audit by the Auditor General has shown that Kenya has lost 2.3 billion Kenya shillings in the COVID-19 items procurement scandal at KEMSA. In an explosive report presented to a Senate committee today, the Auditor General, Nancy Gathangu, indicated that the management of KEMSA for that is violation of various laws, heading to a loss of public money. And the report also revealed fraud in procurement and collusion between KEMSA bosses and the companies that were awarded the multi-billion shilling contracts.
Yes, there is commingling of fund, contrary to the Public Finance Management Act, where we are using funds meant for other projects being used for COVID-19. And in my detailed report, I've raised the risk that if funds meant for UHC were diverted to COVID-19, and we're already having such serious anomalies in the procurement of COVID-19 items, then there is a risk that the UHC objectives may not be realized because a substantial chunk of that budget has been diverted. But we decided when it comes to red flags, if you have companies registered in less than 1 year, and they start doing highly specialized, high volume business, that raises, so to speak, an alarm or red flag as we talk when it comes to forensic audit. So in the detailed report, you'll find that Shop and Buy registered on 14th of February. You will also find Killig, also registered on 22nd January 2020. Contract details was PPEs, 9 million contract value, items delivered to KEMSA warehouses on 22nd June 2020. With regard to the instructions from the PS and KEMSA, the specific instructions that the PS gave was on the use of the World Bank related funds, which were authorized. Our emails between the PS and the Director of Commercial Services, where the Director of Commercial Services sends a request with an annexure indicating the items required and the costs and the supplier, and the PS gives authority for the procurement.
Madam PS, I wish this is the only court you have. It is like, after all, these COVID millionaires will still sacrifice you.
The order, which has been going around and claimed that the PS gave instruction, Chair, you can see that word for word, this is really a replica of the copy of the rationalized budget that came from KEMSA.
We are in communication with EACC, and they have already requested that after I submit my report, I share with them a copy, and we are going to be comparing notes on their findings and our findings to see whether we have arrived at a congruence.
Well, in other news, and this happened in Kisumu, where an unfinished 3-story building collapsed in an area known as Mamboleo that is yesterday night, and trapping at least 4 occupants who lived on the first floor of that building. Neighbors who responded to the incident said 4 people had been pulled out of the rumbles, but 3 others were unaccounted for. Now, those rescued had a varying degree of injuries and were rushed to hospital for medical assessment, but it was not immediately clear what caused the collapse of that building.
We have had a very successful operation. We have been at it since midnight. Immediately we got the calls, our response team actually sprang into action. And as you mentioned earlier, there were 6 people within the building. 4 of them are already out here. And in earlier reports had indicated that 3 were trapped. But we've already done the tracing. The 2 who are missing have been accounted for. They're here with us. You can see them. They're just besides me here. The one who was trapped has just left. So we have brought in the experts to come and and do the investigation so that they can report. But as it is, we can see the building has come down, meaning that there was ineptitude, and we are not going to leave this issue like this. We are going to take legal action. The response team actually took a lot of time to stabilize him. He's safe, and it is only a matter of now the main hospital taking over. But he's going to survive. He's going to survive. That one I'm certain.
We are now going to investigate. In fact, this is when our work is supposed to start, because a building like this is supposed to be approved. When it's being constructed, it's supposed to be monitored by the qualified engineers. And everything, we're going to check if everything was in place, because we have to avoid such occurrences in future.
All right, in order to avoid such occurrences, we must be very, very observant and vigilant in the places that we are staying. Again, security starts with you and me. All right, we talked about the discussion that I had earlier with one Yvonne Gache from Green String Network, and she's a clinical psychologist and psychiatrist. And she said that medication in mental health can be tricky. So how about we look at over-medication? What effects can it cause to a person? And what about under-medication? What does it really mean? Listen into this. Well, thank you, Yvonne, for joining us today and actually just shedding light on this issue of mental health. But I want us to talk about medicalization or medication of mental disorder or mental health issues. So what is the definition of medicalization? And is there anything like over-medicalization or under-medicalization?
First of all, thank you for having me, Sarah. And the issue of medicalization in mental health, I think it would be referring to the use of the biomedical model in mental health issues, and as an approach to then help somebody with mental health issues. So when we talk about medicalization is where you see probably a psychiatrist and you're put on medication for whatever they get after the assessment. So an assessment is usually done, which is a set of questions, or there's a form that is filled depending on your history or any medication you're on that could be causing a certain type of distress. So when that is done and they realize that now you need some sort of help with the situation you find yourself in terms of mental health, when they give medicine, then that is when now your mental health situation is like medicalized, because basically you are on medication. So it's the biomedical model of mental health.
Okay. Well,
thank you. Yes, there is something as over medication.
So what does it mean to say that a patient is over-medicated or under-medicated?
So would talk of probably over-medication because it happens a lot, and it's when a patient would be suffering, say, from depression, for example, and you're put on depression medication. And then the depression medication, because there is just one type, when that medication does not agree with you and it causes some type of side effects, you're then put on more medication to counter the side effects of the medication you had been put on in the first place. So then comes the issue of a medication. Are you really on too many drugs?
Yes.
And there's medication you can actually be on for something else. Maybe you have a hormonal problem and you're put on hormonal medication to help balance out your hormones. But then the medication that you're on causes depression. And so now you get onto antidepressants to help with the side effects of the hormonal medication that you are on.
Yeah.
So then there's now issues that are brought about by the antidepressants. And then you're put on another set of medicine to now counter that. That is now over-medication. And these are things that are happening and people don't even talk about it. And in fact, in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is the manual that is used to make diagnosis for psychiatrists and even psychologists.
Yes.
It even says one of the clauses that are usually there is that you check whether this condition is being caused by medication that somebody is on. And they happen, and these things happen. And so in such cases, you find that somebody is actually over-medicated.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. And when we talk about under-medication, what does it really mean?
I don't know what under-medication could possibly mean.
Yes.
It could, I think in this normal English, it would mean that you're not on enough medication. But sometimes it's not about not being on enough medication. It's about maybe you don't need the medication to even start with. Because what are some of the ways that we could help collectively as a society?
Yeah.
Somebody who is going through certain issues, you know? How could we make it easier for individuals who are going through certain issues to just go through them and we be supportive about it, and then they wouldn't actually need to be medicated in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes. So then there's no issue of under medication or over medication. There's no actually, so that there's no issue of medication at all. You know? Yeah.
All right. And there's something that you have talked about whereby let me call it a side effect is caused by a medication that you're already on, and then it leads to other medications being piled on you. And this is why we have someone maybe for the rest of their lives just being on medication. So when this happens because of one reason or another, now how can someone know as a person, how can I know as Sarah that I am over-medicated, especially when it comes to mental health?
So, Sarah, I would say as a patient, not just as a patient in the mental health sector or as a patient in general, we have a right to question. So when you feel that, you know, maybe this medication is not treating me right, or I started taking this medication and I've started to become angrier, you can always go back to your doctor and have a sit down with them and discuss with them and say, hey, Daktari, I feel like this medication, when I take it, it does ABCD for me. The problem with our society, and it even reflects with some of the doctors, unfortunately, is that once you go to a medic and you say to them, I don't like this medication, because it is ABCD, they say you don't know. But you're not a doctor, and you should be persistent. And if this doctor is not listening to you and is not meeting your needs, you need to change the doctor and you need to see another doctor. It is about time people started getting value, not just for their money, but even value for their service, for the service that they go to get. Because I think it is important that we learn to question. And when you feel in your gut that something is not right, then it's probably not right. So when you feel like I used to be able to wake up in the morning and now I can't, and you're ticking off all the boxes, and the only thing that has changed is that you went to hospital and you were put on X medication for a certain thing, then it is possible that that could be the source of now your discomfort. And it's about time to start asking the question, but doctor, you know, since you put me on this, now I can't wake up in the morning. What is happening? You know, and such like things. So it's basically trust your instinct.
All right. And when we talk about the effects of a medication in this case, you've talked about lack of sleep, maybe you've hinted on fatigue, where someone does not just want to wake up in the morning. Are there any other effects that someone should be on the lookout for?
Depends on what medication you're on. So I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all, or there's specific things you should look out for. I think it's depending on what medication you've been put on. But lethargy is one that goes across the board. It starts with simple things as antihistamines. Basically, that's the dawa for flu. From that one just gives you lethargy. So it goes from that to even the psychotropics. Some of them give you lethargy. Then there's the drowsiness, there's the foggy mind, there's the edginess, moodiness. You're angry. You're basically angry. A fly passes past you and you're like Why did
What
God
are you doing
create
here?
these things?
Yeah.
What are you doing here? You fly, shoo, shoo, like my
Yes.
4-year-old says. But anyway,
Yeah.
so there's all these things that actually people should look out for. Basically, if you feel a different type of way and it doesn't change after a certain period, and this is a good conversation to have with your doctor when you're being put on medication. So you're put on medication, you ask your doctor, what do I expect as a side effect if you're put on medication, you know? So what do I expect as a side effect?
Wow. And you pointed out something very, very, very important, the importance of talking with your doctor even before taking this medication on the side effects. And I feel like this is something that most of the patients, not only for when we're talking about mental health, but cutting across the health sector, most patients fail to ask their doctors what the side effects could be for our medication. So maybe you can touch on that just a little bit.
I think generally we as a society do not question.
Yeah.
So we are taught from very early on, don't question your mother. She has said it because she's your mother. It goes.
Yes.
Don't question your teacher. She is your teacher, Ama is your teacher. So they are right. So the next thing is from there, don't question anyone in authority. And that's why we find it very hard, and we grapple with some of these issues because we don't know when to actually ask. And when we ask, when somebody shoos us away and says, why are you asking? And all of a sudden, they be harsh, we back off because it's something that has been culturally ingrained in us. So even the doctor is not really coming from a place of, I don't trust you despite the fact that you're my client. It is that they're the doctor and you're the patient. Yes, so there's a power imbalance in even doctor-patient conversations, where the doctor now here is the authority and you're under the doctor. So the doctor says this and you say, oh, okay. And the doctor says, and that's how people even go for surgeries that they were not supposed to go to.
Oh, really?
You know? Yeah. That's why people nowadays, if you talk to somebody and you say, you know, I went to hospital and I was diagnosed with this and that, and they say, I think you should go for a second opinion. And the second opinion would have been just asking your doctor, so is this the only option I have? Is there something else that can be done? Is there another way of tackling this? But because we have been taught, and I think maybe most of it even comes from the fact that we were colonized and things like that.
Yes.
Because we are not allowed to question, we'd rather go to somebody else and do the process all over again, other than question this person who is sitting in front of us.
Wow, that's very unfortunate. Well, talking about mental health, you know, with proper medication, no over-medication, no under-medication, with proper and necessary medication, can someone really come out of that cocoon of mental health? Can someone be healed from different types of mental health disorders?
Okay, thank you for that one, Sarah.
Yes.
The challenge I am having right now is that increasingly, day by day, and even as years go by, what is happening is normal human reactions are actually being put out as disorders.
Really?
So, for example, yes, increasingly. So, for example, grief. Grief is now, I think the DSM-5 says, I think if you grieve for over 2 months, then you have a grief disorder. But say you're a mother and you lost your child, who do you, how long your grieving should go for? Say, for example, another thing I would say, like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, stopped being for kids alone and now has been stretched out towards for the entire lifespan. So you could be 30 and have ADHD, which was not the case before.
Yes.
So increasingly what we are doing is we are taking normal reactions and we're putting them in the DSM-5, and we're saying, now, if I don't function for 2 weeks, I am depressed, mildly depressed. Yes. And people throw that out all the time. I am so depressed. Somebody told me 3 days ago, I was so depressed. And I was like, but that is not how depression works. You know, depression doesn't work like that. You can't be, I was depressed 3 days ago. You know. And so increasingly, you find that things that are normal reactions to like traumatic situations, even with the COVID situation, how many people have said they're distressed? I have said they're depressed, but are they depressed or are we going through collective trauma? Because it is a traumatic situation. The world has gotten a pandemic. We do not know the medication. The schools have closed. Our routines have been disrupted. Yes. Our routines are a major source of comfort, are a major source of security. So when you tell me, if I wake up in the morning, I don't know where to go, it causes distress to me. If my child pegged his entire identity on the fact that he used to be #1 in dance class, and then now you're telling him, don't go to modern dance, modern African dance, now who is he minus his modern African dance? He doesn't know. Again, our routine has been disrupted. I remember when COVID started, my son would wake up every day and call out the neighbors' children. We are being left by the school bus. We are being left by the school bus. He did that for 2 weeks. He did that for 2 weeks before it finally sank. He's probably never going to go back to school again. And very sad. So if he did that for 2 weeks, we'd say a type of disorder. But I'm sure would have fallen under an adjustment disorder. He's going through an adjustment. Does he have an adjustment disorder, or just reacting to the situation that he found himself in? Because I also wake up in the morning and now I can't go to work. So some of these things can be taken care of by just us holding each other's hands, us being close to one another. What you're going through is hard, but I'm here for you. You know, what used to happen long time ago, before DSM-3 came out with all the medicalized things, what used to happen? You know, before everything was medicalized. So there's a collective community response. There's us taking care of each other. There's the individualism has to be toned down so that we get back to being a community. And as human beings, we thrive in connection. And that's why even the worst of people try to make a connection. Even the, if you think about it, even terrorists have wives, families, and they have kids. They have families. Because we're human beings and we're built for connection. So the most important thing is, if we keep the connection alive, we might not even need to medicate. And we could just talk to one another and, you know, have it easy and give people the time they need to get out of whatever they're in. Just be patient. Time solves most of these things.
Wow, I like that. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I'm really grateful. And I like what you said up on Mwisho. Time solves very many things. And it can even help us solve these things we call mental health disorders. And sometimes, as you say, it's just a normal reaction. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Have yourself a beautiful evening and say hi to your son. Mwambie shule karibu zitafunguliwa.
I will tell him.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Talking D from Kiambu, you're saying this is a feedback on one of the shows. Thank you so much. We really appreciate on that. Sami from Nakuru is saying, I don't think they are forming a new party. It's only that Tanga Tanga is not wanted in Jubilee. They are only trying to make their voices heard. Uhuru brought in strangers in the party. That's why there's so much noise in Tanga Tanga. Thanks for that. This is Dr. Alex, and you're saying, thank you, Sarah. Your show makes the traffic jam worth it. Makes your evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Calvin Orongai, I've received your message. Asante sana for that. Now, President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden had their very first chance to challenge each other face to face, and they did a lot. Now, hardly a minute went by in the 90 minutes brawl without one of the candidates angrily interrupting the other, whether on the coronavirus pandemic, the Supreme Court, the economy, or anything else, including each other's families. In case you missed the debate, here are some of the highlights.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well. Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is
the question
Supreme
is
Court
Justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
right,
gentlemen. I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in
it, and a
favor
little bit
of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and order.
Law
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
By the
Suburbs.
way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
A very tough debate there, and if you missed out on that, please just look for it. It was a tough time for the moderator Chris Wallace from Fox News, but anyway, that is what happened. Now to some positive news, and the government of Kenya has rolled out the process of paying out pension to more than 12,000 councillors across the country, and this follows concerns from foreign civil servants, and some have already died after making demands since independence.
I believe it has been government policy to try and ensure that these officers were actually recognized so that their benefits, pensions, and gratuities are paid. What answer or what is the policy of the ministry, and what should we expect to tell them even before we see the report?
I know the final stitches are being done to that report back in the office, but basically everything else has been done. Chair, then of course it would be interesting, of course, to know, for instance, that the Senate had estimated that we have about 12,000 former councillors. By the time we are turning this financial year, we shall have in place a process where upon one receiving their last paycheck, in the next consequent month, they will be in the pension payroll.
Now the question I want to ask the CAS and Treasury, what reports have you received in terms of actual implementation of projects? I can see my county having spent 164 million shillings on water projects. Chair, I can confirm here that there is no single water project in Turkana County that was completed using equalization funds. None.
I'm the one handling equalization fund. I can readily give you the information on email, on call, or any other way. We don't hide this information because we want to demystify this accusation that we are not dispersing the money. We have dispersed all the money. So I think some of these should be moved to the implementing ministries to get you all the facts. We have given you the information. Now go to them and ask them specifically about this, since you have the answers now.
That is good news for the retired councillors across the country. Thank you so much for tuning in to This Is The Day. Before we end this show, I have to tell you that you have a purpose in your life. Live to fulfill that purpose. My name is Sarah Otieno. Have yourself a lovely night. I will see you tomorrow.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.